Hey guys, Merry Me. This is Anastasia Autumnfire, and today I actually wanted to share with you my first Yule craft of the season. I think I'm going to begin a new series or a new playlist, however you look at that, for specific Yule crafting. As many of you know, for my Samhain crafting, I believe I said several times during that, Samhain and Yule are my two favorite Sabbats, and they actually both have ties to not only my matron goddess Hel. She is recognized as being connected to both Samhain and Yule, but I also do feel a strong connection to Cernunnos for those two as well, because he is a horned god, and therefore Samhain is when he makes that descent into the underworld or into his new role as the leader of the Wild Hunt, and Yule is when the goddess gives birth to the sun again, so he's kind of ushered back, not at his full power obviously, but it is when the Oak King is victorious over the Holly King. So for me, that's kind of his beginning to his light aspect again, if that makes sense. So my witchy sister-in-arms and I decided that we were going to do Yule crafting starting the week before Thanksgiving in America and running through till Yule. So our first craft was this. I don't know that we have a name for it. It started as kind of a pagan advent calendar, for lack of a better phrase, kind of a countdown to Yule. And the idea came, I had wanted to make something for my daughter so she could use it like an advent calendar, but for Yule. And it evolved and evolved and evolved into this. And now it's definitely something much more spiritual, much more connected to me as a practitioner and a witch, as opposed to some fun little thing for my daughter to do. I do still have this connected to my daughter for Yule, but I just kind of want to give you an overview of this. So basically what we did was we went to Michael's. Shout out to Michael's. Love that place. And we got a grapevine wreath, which is what the circular thing is. The star that we made in the middle was, again, they have this grapevine swag, which I think you buy, and most people just kind of put it over mantles or put it on walls or what have you. We instead ripped it apart and disassembled it and went through the twigs and broke them in half when we needed to, or bent them if they were pliable enough, and created a star. My star I actually did create with wire and obviously ribbon afterwards, but at first I just basically took bundles of twigs and wired them together to create just long bundles, and then I'd place them where I wanted them, and I would then take more wire and connect them together into the star. And I did it in an invoking basically an invoking manner. So I created the star with what I have as invoking. I realized, we found out that night, that actually the way she draws an invoking pentagram is different than how I draw mine. Her way is probably more correct. More people probably follow that way. I think I found mine online. It just kind of showed how to create invoking and banishing pentagrams to draw in the circle and when you're calling the quarters and such. So I'm sure her way is probably right, but it's the way that I followed is how I follow in my practice as of right now. And again, I'm a big believer, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's however you feel called to do something. It's just like when I call the quarters. If it's my own practice, I call it starting with the north. Most people go in the east. It's just everyone has their way of doing things. But I did follow my practice because this is a personal craft. So I did my invoking procedure and connected them as I was going through. After I connected them all, I then went through with the ribbon. I chose red, there we go, and green. The red, I know these are also kind of traditional colors. The red I chose because for me, I wanted to connect it to hell. If you look at hell online in most reference materials, her color correspondences are usually referenced as white and black. And while I do agree with that, and I totally jive with that, I also do find red to be associated with her. Again, that is just something I believe, that's something that I found in my practice. Red is mostly attributed because of her connection to apples. They are very sacred to her. Ancestral magic, in my practice at least, has very much a connection to red as well. She is very much based with ancestral magic. So for me, red ties into hell. Green is very much for Cernunnos. He is a god of fertility. He is a guy that brings forth life and vitality when he is in his light aspect. He does have a dark aspect. He is both hunter and hunted. He does become an underworld deity in the dark of the year. But Yule is kind of, it's the longest night of the year, but we start to prepare ourselves for the return of the sun. It every day gets a bit longer after this point. We're able to rejoice in that. For those of us that live in cold areas, I'm from Minnesota. I live in Minnesota. The closest I've ever been living in Minnesota was I moved to Superior, Wisconsin, which is literally just across a bridge from Duluth for a couple of years. But really, I've always been in the cold. And when the solstice would come, it was always that moment of realizing, the sun's coming back. The sun's going to be a thing again, even on the coldest and blistery of days. If the sun is out, it seems a bit brighter. It seems a bit happier. Things don't seem as awful as it can be. I'm not one of these people that, I hate the cold, blah, 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 but it gets cold in Minnesota, I'm telling you. So winter solstice is definitely a time of rejoicement for me, at least, because it means the return of the light. It's coming back. So I did want to represent that with green on this, and that does tie back to my patron god. So then what we did was we chose, we each had kind of a different way of creating, and I wish I had a picture of hers so I could show you guys. Hers was absolutely beautiful. Mine looks kind of hodgepodge, I think. It definitely is obviously something that I made. It's not, whereas hers, it looked like you could buy it from a store. It's gorgeous. And hers had such great symbolism to Caradwyn, who's the goddess that she works with. And anyway, it was just awesome. So the next thing, there we go. Sorry, it takes me a minute. So the next thing we did was we wanted to put votives at the points of the stars. And the idea with this is they were signifying the elements. So we have earth, we have water, we have spirit, we have air, we have fire. The middle, I also kind of have a spirit. But the difference with that is that's kind of, I have that kind of representing the inner light within me. It's always burning. It's always there. It's kind of my quest as a seeker at this point. So I have that candle going all the time. Otherwise, what we're doing is every week we light a new candle, and that week we dedicate towards crafts for that element. So last week we started with earth. Earth is on this quadrant of space between those points. This is the earthen point on the star, I believe. Okay, good. I didn't screw that one up. And so we started with earth. So we lit that candle. This week, because I am doing this video on Sunday, we begin the week of water. And then I believe we're going to skip lighting spirit. We want spirit to be the end because this is the quadrant for spirit, and that's what we're going by, because we want to open the circle. So next we'll go to air, then we'll go to fire, and then it's spirit, which lights the top of the candle, binding it all together, basically. The idea is we're creating a circle, opening it, and then spirit is what binds us. So once we got those up there, I did make elemental oils. If you haven't watched my magician craft, that is what I made, was elemental oils while working with the magician tarot card. And I consecrated each of the little areas with that oil, as to did I also did the points of the star with their correct correspondences, and I put a little dab on the bottom of each candle. Obviously, because this is grapevine with leaves and all sorts of fun stuff in there, we are not using real candles. They are fake. They are plastic, you can tell. But the sentiment is there. The intent is there. We tried to make this as natural a creation as possible, but if we wanted to have fire somehow, if we wanted to light candles somehow on this, there was no way it was going to be able to be natural, if that makes sense. So for earth, I chose pine cones to represent them. I don't know. Let me see if I can move that. There we go. So we have pine cones here. There's a bit of dusting on them. The dusting is both silver and gold, which I like because silver very much represents the goddess to me. Gold represents the god. I would have preferred it just to have been silver because earth is a feminine element. Sorry, excuse me. Needed to take a drink of water. But because Carnunos is so tied to the earth, I didn't mind entirely because I thought there is that connection. Next up there is for water, and I have a snowflake ornament. The snowflake ornament is metal, and it again has silver glitter all up in there. Again, I like the silver. It reminds me of the goddess. It represents the goddess in many ways, and so I really liked that connection. For air, as I knock things over, sorry about that. We have some jingle bells. Bell for air, I really meshed well with. At first I thought, oh, I'll put a feather up there. Feather seems to be my go-to for representing air, but I kind of liked this. It really spoke to the season, I thought. It really was a connection to not only the spiritual element of air, but also the Sabbath, and also the secular Christmas, which I do celebrate. I do have, a family that I think for the most part doesn't know my my faith, my spiritual beliefs. I think they have inklings, but they don't know, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place with this camera. I'm going to set it back down. There we go. That way you can still see the jingle bells. And it goes back. Okay, I give up. Anyway, so I liked that because it was kind of a connection to how I was raised. It was a connection to Christmas. I've never really been in a hardcore Christian family. That's not really their thing. But Christmas was always a big, big deal. But it was always about family, more so than the birth of Christ or anything like that. We said Christmas, but it was always secular. It was always about Santa Claus. It was always about family. It was about getting together for dinner, and then when you got older, drinks, and finding that perfect present. I go crazy when it comes to this time of year. So the jingle bells really spoke to me in that way. Then for fire, I chose, and it was kind of maybe a little odd, I chose a poinsettia. For me, even though it's a flower, so that kind of corresponds with earth, and again, it is fake. It's not a real poinsettia. It's cloth with a plastic center with glitter on it. But again, it's what I had. I do like it though. For me as a fire sign, a poinsettia is one of those flowers that does correspond with me. December babies. It's a huge December flower. So I liked that. And it also just, I've always equated it with fire for some reason. It always has had that fiery look to it. It is kind of bold. I mean, what kind of flower is around in winter time? And I know it doesn't, perhaps found out in nature during winter time. It's in greenhouses, but all the same, it resonated with me. And again, it might not resonate with you. I might be the only person on the face of the earth that it kind of is like, oh yeah, poinsettia, fire, makes sense. But it worked for me, so that's why I went with it. For spirit, I was originally going to make a bow and put it right here to represent the bringing together of everything. But I think what I'm going to do is leave it open until actual Yule, and then I will put a ribbon, because it will be here. The spirit will have been joined. All elements will be lit. The spirit beacon on top will be lit, and it's arrived. Winter solstice is here, if that makes sense. I don't know. I just kind of like the symbolism of that. In the middle, you'll notice the bottom of the candle's kind of poking out a bit more than it should, per se. But I have one of my wicker earthen balls that have what looks like, glitter and plastic to make it look like ice. That actually is something, again, from Michael's. And we cut out the bottom and poked the candle up through there so I could still get at the bottom to turn on and off the candle when need be. And again, for me, that represents, well, me. It basically is me at the center of everything. I have spirit feeding into me. I have earth. I have water. I have air. I have fire. I have everything that I could possibly need. And I'm in the middle of all of it. And I kind of liked the idea of kind of an ice ball, because there is a certain amount of negativity. There is an amount of inertia. There is this kind of hard outer layer to all of us. I'm sure all of us, but for me, it is a thing. As much as I can sit here and say I have a personal relationship with the god and the goddess, and the spirits of the elements affect me, and the good folk are a thing, and the ancestors are a thing. As much as I can put my faith in that and believe in that and speak to that, I still have this attitude of, well, prove it. I need things to be proven. I need things to be black and white, clear as crystal. I need that kind of knowing. And I struggle to work off of faith. So there is that kind of layer of resistance to the spirit realm to me. And so I kind of liked that ice look. I liked the winter crystallization around my inner candle. It's always lit. It's always there. It will always be gleaming through. But it is something that is hidden. It is something that is hindered at times. It is something that needs fanning. Otherwise, it's just going to die out. And that's where the rest of the wreath comes in, because I have earth as a foundation, as a grounding point, as my stabilizer. I have, let's see if I can back this out a little bit so I can get all of them in there. Thank you. I've got water, you know, feeding that emotion, bringing me closer to the mysticism, and I really relate that element to the goddess herself. And then we have air, bringing in the knowledge, bringing in that wisdom. And then fire, of course, is all about will and determination and strength and courage. And then, of course, you have spirit, which is the unknown. And it all kind of mixes together and merges and gets through to feed that flame that's in the center, regardless of the icy barrier that is kind of there. So yeah, so that is my first Yule craft of the year. I do have at least one Yule video that I made crafting for Earth. What I'm going to be doing during these weeks is not only crafting for other friends, but also for my little girl to bring this back to her, since this started off with an idea of me wanting to do something for her. This is kind of giving me the countdown to Yule I'm using to create gifts for her. So for the first week there, it was about earth. So I crafted earth things. I made her a pentacle out of clay for her to put in her room to serve on her altar, if she so chose to. If she decides at one point in her life, you know, hey, I don't want this anymore, she doesn't need it, by all means, she can take it off. For water, I'm going to make her a chalice. I'm going to see how much make is actually a thing in that. It might be something that I buy and then witchy it up, for lack of a better phrase. Air, that's what I was going to do. It took me a minute, because initially when it's air, it immediately turns into, oh, I'll make an incense. But she's 3. I'm not quite sure how excited about incense she'll be. So, what I'm going to do is actually make her a ribbon mobile. Or a ribbon, I don't know how to explain it. Mobile is really the only, mobile is the only thing I can think of. But you'll see it, because I'm going to do a video on it. And then for fire, I was going to make her a candle. I think I am going to have to witchy up a fake candle. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. And then spirit, I think I'm going to make her a witchy orb, but I'm not 100% yet. But we'll see. Anyway, so that is my first Yule project. And I will be posting other Yule projects, because I have Yule gifts to make. I have my witchy pen pal, my lovely, lovely friend, Pretty Alice Moon. I'm so sorry, sweetie. I know you have sent me a couple of letters, and I'm like, oh, I need to get that sent out, and you just had your birthday. Happy belated birthday. I know I sent you a shout out on your Facebook, but all the same. So I have, you know, gifts to make her. I have gifts to make my friends here, my family, all sorts of stuff. So there will be crafting. Oh yes, there will be crafting. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe. I know videos have been pretty sparse lately, but I'm getting back to it, and I appreciate your patience with me. Thanks guys. Have a good one. Bye.